Welcome back to Inside Games, the only gaming news show brave enough to throw week-old Cyberpunk leftovers in the microwave for a news report.
Hey, it's cyberfood. It's good forever, right? And the even better news is that this is one of those stories that just gets better with age, kind of like yesterday's pizza, or cyber pizza, whatever. What started 10 days ago as an incomplete news report by YouTube channel Upper Echelon Gamers has since become a more complete story detailing terrible workplace practices by the Romanian QA outsourcing company Quantic Lab.
Yeah, Upper Echelon Gamers, the channel, man, that name just killing me. The channel behind insightful bangers like TikTok is destroying a generation and society's boogeyman, Gamergate returns. Oh man,
they just sound like good summer movies. I feel like
they do. Those are good titles. Published a report titled, quote, "What made Cyberpunk 2077 fail? Quantic Lab?" on June 25th. So in it, Upper cites a single anonymous source and tons of provided documentation in providing a possible narrative about how Cyberpunk 2077 launched as buggy as it did.
Yeah, and we all want to know. Everybody's been waiting for some kind of explanation, so these narratives can fall on very, fertile soil. According to the report, Quantic Lab instituted daily quotas for its testers. As a result, testers would write up bug reports for the numerous and much less important superficial bugs in the game just to hit their numbers. Like this texture's flickering, this guy's sunglasses are on the wrong way. Instead of the game crashes when you do this. That would be more important. Apparently, this flooded all the bug reports with way less severe issues, making it difficult for the teams at CD Projekt to actually identify the critical issues that needed fixing.
The report also makes mention of several other workplace violations, like Quantic Lab directly lying to clients about the team sizes they would dedicate to projects, or misrepresenting the multilingual capabilities of its staff. There's also a kind of a bit of paraphrasing in there about Quantic Lab's terrible workplace culture, but sadly, not a lot of direct information from the source to back that particular aspect up. Luckily, that comes later.
Yeah, there's a reason the first one was a little incomplete, but Upper concludes the first video by describing Quantic Lab's part in Cyberpunk like this.
Cyberpunk 2077 may not have failed exclusively because of a faulty QA process, but if true, it was certainly a major contributing factor in the overall decline of that game pre-launch.
Which is why it's weird that in their next video just 2 days later on June 27th, they seem really upset that gaming blogs ran with the narrative that Quantic Lab's participation may have played a part in Cyberpunk's buggy launch.
That story exploded across mainstream gaming media. The angle of Cyberpunk 2077 specifically became hyper-focused, and the narrative took shape that this was either a catch-all explanation about why that particular game failed, or an attempt at dodging blame.
Yeah, despite titling the original report, "What Made Cyberpunk Fail?", Upper now insists the report was actually about the workplace malpractices at Quantic Lab, and says they're currently talking to over a dozen active and former QA employees to form a more complete vision of that story.
Well, that's good. At least they're doing that. One day later on June 28th, Quantic Lab CEO Stefan Sikarescu, hopefully I don't know if I got that right, but I'm doing my best, posted a public reply on Quantic Lab's website that doesn't specifically deny any of the allegations in UEG's report. Instead, it makes generic statements like how they, quote, continue to maintain a quality comes first approach to all the work we undertake, and, quote, Quantic Lab always strives to work with transparency and integrity with our industry partners, blah, blah, blah. The usual stuff.
What else are you going to say, right? Sikarescu does throw some diplomatic shade, though, writing that the video published on social media, as mentioned in your article, starts with incorrect statements about Quantic Lab's history, and that there seems to be a lack of understanding in the process of how a game is tested before it's released to the market.
All right. They're smarter than us. On June 29th, Upper Echelon Gamers published a video, quote, "Exposing Quantic Lab, a rotten side of gaming." In it, UEG highlights multiple anonymous sources, both through their own and others' reporting, that tells a story of immoral and potentially illegal worker treatment.
Yeah, this is where the whole thing breaks open, and it kind of becomes a full, real thing. Many of these accounts are collated and published by Hacking Work podcast producer Doru Supayala on the podcast's Substack, blogs. In a June 28th post translated via Google Translate, Supayala writes that after posting about UEG's original report on social media, an indirect representative of Quantic Lab contacted them and asked them to drop the issue. Apparently, they claimed that the original report was actually an international conspiracy to damage the reputation of their parent company, Embracer Group.
Oh, wow. Okay, that goes all the way to the top. But Supayala did the coolest thing and instead started collecting, translating, and publishing the numerous LinkedIn and Facebook messages they received of workplace abuse. 3 posts across 2 days from tens of employees, all agreeing that Quantic Lab sucks.
This is the real democracy of it, is people getting out there and being able to actually say and have a platform for what they've suffered. One writer relates that they were, quote, made to lie in reports to clients that there were X testers per project, when in fact they were a much smaller number. Some even worked on 3 to 4 projects, and on some days, as a team lead, I was alone on the project and logged bugs with multiple database accounts.
Oh my goodness, great. There's a cause for lots of lawsuits here. Boy, oh boy. That sounds illegal to me. Further accounts detail the company's misrepresentation of their multilingual abilities, promising native speakers on staff to cover game localizations, then subcontracting out that work to freelancers or other third-party companies to cover the languages they didn't actually represent.
It's just like Hustle Bros stuff. Like, can you do this? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I got 100 of them. And then as soon as you leave that meeting, you're on the phone calling everyone you know.
Yep.
Give me somebody who knows German, like right now. On top of all of this, still other reports describe late pay, oppressive work atmospheres, and intentional business practices of forcing seasoned employees out so that they can be replaced with younger, cheaper, and less experienced testers.
Oh my gosh, Lawrence and I have both been, I feel like, victims of that and seen that happen in our industry many, many times. Not necessarily QA, but like it could be anywhere. That happens a lot. So, and that's just bad business practices, not necessarily illegal, just bad.
Just not paying and giving an excuse. They didn't pay us, so I can't pay you. That's the biggest, that one really cuts because, I've been there multiple times.
Amusingly, a few of the commenters even pointed out the lack of security, with one person even saying, quote, you could upload anywhere, copy on USB stick, unrestricted network access to documents, etc. So given that leaky documents set this whole story off to begin with, we'd say these comments are actually pretty believable. Makes a lot of sense.
Look at where we are now.
Yeah.
Upper Echelon also paraphrased some of their sources' experiences as well, including an incident, and this is some chef's kiss CEO bullshit, where Quantic Lab owner and CEO Stefan Sikarescu forced the entire mobile testing team at Quantic Lab to test mobile applications through his personal UTest account. So UTest is a freelance software testing website. You can sign up for an account and then basically take on testing gigs. He basically used company time and resources to generate private revenue for his own personal account, which he then apparently used to buy a luxury car that he bragged about.
Oh my gosh. Holy shit. This is like starting to be a pattern of behavior, right? We're starting to see it over and over and over, which becomes more and more believable as the story goes on. Quantic Lab also reportedly demanded that employees repay legally mandated holiday and overtime pay back to the company, and would pressure employees to sign outrageously restrictive NDAs to try and prevent any of these practices from leaking out.
Yeah, but that just builds up a ton of bad will, and as soon as one person goes public with something, then it's just a dog pile. I mean, we kind of saw something similar happen with Activision Blizzard, right?
Yes.
It finally broke. There's safety in a group. So when there's finally a group saying, hey, we've been dicked over, there's the solidarity of knowing that you have a group to speak out against, and it wasn't just you.
That's right.
So yeah, once one domino falls, they all start to, and I'm pretty sure that's what we've seen here.
So in the end, it sounds like just a really crappy business to work for, and awareness of that could prompt the company's current owners, Embracer Group, to investigate and remedy the situation. Meaning lay off the CEO. Upper Echelon concludes their report by summarizing that Quantic Lab is less an exception to the usual rule of QA, as we'd like to think, sharing stories from across all their sources about how rough life can get in contract QA.
Yeah, but the story isn't actually quite over yet. I don't think we've really heard all there is to hear. Most recently, on July 2nd, Supayala indicated that they're working with PC Gamer's Ted Litchfield on a larger report, so we'll likely see a lot more of the story unfold. We've had a little more visibility onto the world of QA lately, which is good. Anything that makes sustainability at all the levels of game development better is what we want. We want, good employees to enjoy their jobs and keep their expertise in the field of making games that we love so much.
Right.
And that's ultimately the big frustration that I see out of a lot of these people, is that there's a lot of people who really like their jobs and are really good at it, but there's just no place, there's no celebration for that. It's always just kick them out, hire somebody else that's cheaper, and everyone can see that the products are suffering for it. And I think that's the thing that really stings the most.
Sure.
I always get a little nervous when there's only one anonymous source and a lot of that information is paraphrased versus quoted directly, because then we just have to kind of trust the paraphrasing. Whereas where it gets to eventually is that we have multiple independent people all saying the same thing. All right, then you've got a full report. And that's also where the third report eventually gets, is it has multiple sources that all agree. That first one's a little shaky though, but I have to admit it did lead to something good. And I do think that, it's kind of creepy because essentially the story gained traction initially because of Cyberpunk's clickability, right?
Yeah, people want to know why Cyberpunk was so bad.
But that's not really what the story was, and representing it that way wasn't very accurate or journalistically sound. But it led to something good, and I don't know, it's this weird mishmash now because we're in this position too. We have to consider SEO and popularity of things. So if you want to do good in this space, it's almost like you have to rely a little bit on clickbait to get people interested in your story before the good reporting can actually happen.
Yes.
Is that just how it's going to be? Or is that bad?
People may not know, Lawrence, you can correct me here on the ethics of journalism, but generally you need two anonymous sources that are separate from each other. They don't know each other, and then you get their information, and then they corroborate each other independently. Is that kind of what we're supposed to happen? What's supposed to happen with the journalism?
That's the ideal situation. There are times when a single source can provide such an overwhelming amount of information that you exercise your judgment and you trust it and report it, which is what happened here.
Yeah, that's the question, and I guess that's kind of what we're getting at, which is, well, does the end justify the means? And the question for me generally is, if we're doing stuff on Inside Games, I'm not gonna lie about things, but I will absolutely clickbait you into getting you here. And what I mean by that is, we're gonna put a title that grabs your eyes. It's not gonna be a lie. It's gonna be something that makes sure that you see it like, oh well, this is why Cyberpunk is bad. We're probably gonna end up titling this video, "This is why Cyberpunk is bad," because people want to know that. People want to know why that is. That said, exposing like business malpractice and things like that from well, they weren't lies, but they were like exaggerations, or maybe just a little less information than like practical journalism would expose. Oh boy, that's tough. That's real tough. Thankfully, we were not in that position. We're just reporting the story. We're not the ones breaking it. But it's great for the people that are there now, right? Because now they can actually tell their story. Hopefully things will get better at Quantic. I just don't know if the end justify the means. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a messy situation for sure. I mean, we've been in that position before. We've reported rumors from a single trusted source. It just feels like the stakes are different when you're actually reporting about workplace malpractices versus, is that next Halo going to have 10 or 11 guns in it?
By the way, specifically, we reported those as rumors. So we didn't go on and be like, this is fact. I don't know if Upper Echelon Gamers did that. If they reported it as fact, they said, no, this is all rumor. This is all rumor. We have some information that provides, some credibility to the rumor, but it is still a rumor. I don't know if that's the way they reported it. That's what we did. And like you said, Lawrence, it didn't have people's livelihoods attached. Like if we were talking about the next Silent Hill was going to be on Xbox or whatever,
Yeah, it's just an interesting state of affairs. I guess at its core, it's weird to me that you have to market a workers' rights issue as something palatable and clickable, but that's always been the case, right? That's just human nature.
Yes. In the last 50 years, yes. News has turned a corner. It used to be the, one really straight-faced man reading the news with no opinion. That's what people wanted, and it's exactly the opposite now. News is big business. It needs to get clicks. It needs to make money. And so that's why you have YouTube channels. That's why you have, ridiculous celebrity blogs. That's why you've got all this stuff that have these salacious titles, because people click on it and it works and everybody hates it. It's hilarious. Everyone always talks about it. They hate it, but they all click on it. Everybody does it.
Well, Bruce, I've got a couple of patrons that'll always clickbait me with care. Christian Morgan Anderson, Baron 5X, Chase T, Goop Binky, and Vermin McCann. Thank you very much.
I bet all of these people are going to click on this video over and over and over, even if the title's a lie. Cody Jost, Ryan Darberry, Dreskel, Kyle Heaton, and James Bowser, thank you very much for being our patrons.